What's cracking, guys? DT here, answering the question with Anthem today. Did it fail? Whoa, 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 whoa. Did it fail? How could you say that right now, Tone? It's a game that's going to be releasing content for the next 10 years. Yeah, that's just kind of the caveat for the video. Today we're going to look at Anthem as it was at release and the events, the goddamn epic tale that has befell this game since it came out. There's quite a bit to talk about, so I hope you guys find some sort of gem in here, or if you like the content in this style, make sure to hit the thumbs up button as we travel along this saga of Anthem. So, the first thing I want to say is, yes, Anthem is a live video game. So, just take what I say as a grain of salt, as it is today, March 11, 2019, as I record this video right now. May change later on, but we're going to analyze the game right now. So, the very interesting part about Anthem is that the story begins way, way sooner than its release, right? Anthem was a game that was hyped up tremendously. It was basically the game that was going to end all games, or at least a terrific game from EA. EA, leading up to Anthem, put out Battlefront 2, and they just had a mess of PR and stuff, so there was a general lack of goodwill for EA leading up to Anthem, just in terms of the company that made it. But BioWare was behind the wheel, right? In charge of the game. A tremendous company that put out games like KOTOR, Dragon Age. These games had an almost divine flavor to them. You know, when you think about Dragon Age, you can picture the game for what it is, and that's the sign of a great game. BioWare was fantastic at just weaving these interconnected stories with these amazing characters and just really making the gameplay tied to the narrative in a way that made you feel really invested into those games, those stories, those ideas. I love those franchises from BioWare, and I thought, well, if anyone could do it, if anyone could pull off this magical, epic, goddamn game that is Anthem, it is going to be BioWare. Unfortunately, some stuff happened leading up to Anthem that I think we all need to talk about before even looking at the game. Number one is this idea of what is a live game? You know, what is a games as a service? GAAS, as they say, the acronym. What does that mean for gaming? The number one thing I think that means for a game is that we need to curb our expectations for what happens on release. I know it's very easy to, in this day and age, get very, very vocal about what the expectations for a living video game is. But I think we've seen by now that what is going to happen with an EA, Ubisoft, Activision Games as a Service title is that we are going to receive not enough content launch. That's not to say that's what we want. That's not to say that's how it should be. I'm saying that as a realistic representation of what has happened prior and at the release of Anthem. This is the way things are. It's a sad fact of life that we'll put money towards a game that is not finished, that we're basically investing in a product that we can't play today. We'll, play half of it. And this all stemmed from the very popular idea of ripping DLC content from games like Destiny, repackaging it as monetization. This then transferred to DLC, and now it becomes a part of live gaming where what is built at any point is unknown if it's going to be put in the final game or not. And when the game's released, is it the final game at all? No, it's not. It's a starting point. It's when a race car crosses the starting line, it's, that point at which he's then going to drive around the track, and those are, that's where the content comes in, and when the finish line comes in 5 years later, that may be the final product. So unfortunately, that was one of the realizations that I think this industry learned. BioWare releases Anthem as a beta. A couple weeks, I think it was a few weeks before the main game. This is where our hesitations were confirmed, at least in terms of what we expected Anthem to be, because I think most people went into Anthem, I know I did, with this hopefulness, yet backed by an expectation of maybe not the best. I think that's the best way to put it. I was hoping for a good game, but I was expecting some problems along the way. The number one problem, as I just stated, was this idea of a live game. How much content am I going to get? How much was sacrificed to bring the game to a state at which they can monetize it further in the future? So the beta comes out, and there's some good things about Anthem. Combat, fantastic. The flying mechanic, how did they do that? It feels so good. It feels so meaty. The sound effects are phenomenal. Looks so fantastic. The world, obviously inspired by James Cameron's Avatar. James Cameron's Avatar? How about James Cameron's Avatar? Beautiful, beautiful game. The draw distance is phenomenal. The skybox is amazing. The water looks fantastic. The world design is so cohesively imaginatory and wonderful. I felt compelled to explore every nook and cranny of Anthem. Amazing. And the general gunplay, at least the idea of comboing things together, detonators, that makes sense. Something we haven't really seen from a general looter shooter, at least in terms of an RPG setting. So those are the good things about Anthem, but of course that quickly kind of faded away, kind of peeled back once we took a little bit of a deeper look at Anthem. Of course, there was bugs up the ass, hard to connect to the game right away, but once people started to get into the game, we realized it was basically a loading simulator, or a loading screen simulator, backed up by a poor story, characters that were lifeless, boring, trite, general narrative that was uninspiring and not motivating for players to finish it. It's just nothing exciting about the game. There was cut content as well. The Titans from the trailers not being in the game at all, at least in motion. The sheer fact that the opening sequence to Anthem is more exciting than any piece of content in the game says everything. The general playability of Anthem was horrific, if I can say that. Sorry if that offends those who enjoy the game. This is just my opinion after all. But I think the general consensus was that the mission design of Anthem was awful. You would basically repeat content over and over and over and over and over and over until you hit level 30. And then once you hit level 30, you repeat everything you just repeated over and over and over. EA said that there would be 2 additional strongholds. There wasn't. There was one. One of the strongholds was the in-game mission. So you had to hit level 30. You were going to play that last mission. So no, it wasn't new. The only thing that was new was the Temple of the Scar. That was a big red flag for me because that was basically lies by omission. The slickest way you could possibly lie about a game. That's kind of blending in though to the full release, right? Anthem eventually came out to all players. So when players finally got their hands on Anthem, it was all-out chaos. I've never seen the industry explode in the way that it did with Anthem, right next to Fallout 76 and Battlefront 2. Publications came out, reviews, critics on YouTube. They blasted the game. What else can I say? The Metacritic average is 60 for the critics and a 40 for users. So we're talking about one of the games that was supposed to be the most amazing experience ever. All the funding in the world, hundreds of millions of dollars to make this game. Nobody liked it. If they did like it, they were either a really hardcore looter shooter fan, maybe played Destiny or Warframe, or they just liked EA just in general. So other than that though, I think the consensus was that this game was as about bad as it could possibly get for releasing as a total experience. As I said earlier, the game was designed as a games as a service. What that means is the game was potentially going to release with the shoddy amount of content, and it was. The story sucked. The gameplay was quickly just repetition recycling simulator. And the most important thing about it, the loot was actually bad. Bosses didn't drop specific loot. The loot itself was, just done poorly. There was nothing exciting about it. And above all else, the game just lacked soul. And we know that because of what happened following the release of Anthem. People weren't engaging in the content as expected. They didn't actually run full strongholds. They just looted a few of the treasure chests in those dungeons and then re-queued. So the meta of Anthem turned into a rat race for seeing how many chests you could find. I mean, where's the passion in that? That players would rather skip the actual content to get to the finish line instead using a shortcut. Well, that actually isn't where it stopped. Players then went to free play mode and just farmed treasure chests instead of doing the Temple of the Scar now because it was quicker and there was better loot in those treasure chests, at least in terms of the quantity and chance of finding loot. That was quickly hotfixed though. Some players actually received bans for doing it, even though they weren't breaking any terms of service. But a few weeks later, it gets even better in early March. Players found another exploit built in by EA itself though, as they accidentally increased drop rates for treasure chests in general, which began to shower loot for players. Finally, people actually had some reason to play the game now that they were actually getting at least a consistent amount of decent loot. Players then begged EA to keep those drop rates in the game because the game now had a decent, like I said, reward curve. But it turns out it was a bug, and then what did EA do? Forget about it. They hotfixed the hell out of it. Now we're back to square one. People complete the main game. and they simply run Temple of the Scar Grandmaster 2 difficulty, and that's it. I mean, if that wasn't bad enough, then the crashing started to happen with certain consoles. Anthem basically tanked their entire systems, especially the PlayStation 4, which is just yet again another story in the ongoing nightmare of bugs, glitches, long loading screens, exploits, and game-created hassle bestowed onto innocent gamers who just want to play the fucking game without worrying that their consoles will blow up. What's the cherry on top of all of that? There's a digital boycott to revert the game back to 1.03. Yes, that's where we stand right now. Does that sound like a great spot for what was supposed to be the biggest game of all time, let alone maybe the biggest game of the year at least? Well, that the community would rather take a game in its bug state than what the game makers intended. Talking about scraping the bottom of the barrel here. What about the response from EA? Well, it's always been the same from EA, this strange, resigned, political style response that makes no definitive judgment on anything. It's a game of cat and mouse. EA is playing with their community, and it's disturbing. It's really disturbing, actually, the fact that they would release this game to the market with so many technical problems, crashing, bugs, game-breaking issues, a lack of cohesive loot, a lack of content, and just the shell of a game for $60. I wonder what happened. Well, player counts. The unfortunate part about the entire experience of Anthem is we don't know anything about player counts. We don't know anything about sales. I mean, how could we? In this day and age, player counts are either wrong, skewed, or not even reported. But I think this is one of those games that you don't need a PhD to understand that it's probably already in the toilet, at least in terms of where the player count is heading. I think at one point the player base was probably really large, but as we tend to see in games like this that release with a shoddy amount of content and they quickly become exposed, these games, the player counts will drop off the precipice regardless of how big they may be. So it's all about the trends, right? Where is the player count actually heading? And I think, of course, unless they do something drastic, some sort of divine miracle happens with Anthem, the player counts are going to continue to bomb. Now, how about sales? Again, who the hell knows? We've got physical sales, digital, origin access, retail discounted copies, game copies broken down by region, black market codes bought and resold internationally at all different price points. How do you even judge the sales of this game, the performance? You could possibly look at the stock price and the volatility of such, but that's not really affected by Anthem per se. It's a combination of things driven by supply and demand. It goes up and then down. Something happens with the EA, it shoots down, maybe it comes up the next day. It's a mindfuck. We don't know. Of course, the problem is that it's all inconsistent. One company in Wall Street shorts EA, the other one is long for it. And that inconsistency isn't just in Wall Street, it's publications too. One article says that Anthem is the reason for EA's decline. Others say that its live gaming model is something that's going to be used for a future success driver. Some articles pop up saying it's going to be the demise of BioWare. Others say that they're way too important to be shit-canned. There's so much inconsistency here, especially with just normal gamers too. Some fanboys defend Anthem to the death, while others, make provocative material, bastardizing it, often slandering it to hell. That goes for bystanders too. It's a parade. It's a messy parade. They watch the parade go by, either laughing at it or laughing with it. This game is a mess on all sides, on all angles, from all groups of people. But what is known, though, is that Anthem did it wrong. I think it's safe to say by now that if you love Anthem, that's a great thing. If you're playing Anthem consistently and you're having a great time, that's awesome, and no one's going to discount that. But for the majority of the player base, I don't think they could turn this ship around. There's too much disdain and conflict out there right now. The Anthem message and the Anthem image is one of absolute travesty at this point. I think they'd have to remake the game at this point, or at least, if not remake it, then transform fundamentally how players interact with Anthem, redo the entire story from 1 to 30, and inject the game with content. Where is the content in Anthem? We're talking about a looter shooter here, a game that discounted its story. The best thing that Anthem could have been known for, a game developed by BioWare. They're shining traits of BioWare, creating handcrafted stories and characters and emotion. These amazing experiences. They threw that to the side in favor of going to looter shooter routes. Don't be mistaken. That's what they did. That's why the story sucks. That's why the game feels very hollow. So we have to judge it on its content, right? A looter shooter is driven by how much content it has and how compelling that content is. Anthem has a lack of content. We all know that by now. There's nothing to do. Everything's recycled. If you like that style of gameplay and you're having fun, that's great. I feel like that is not the norm, though. And number two, of course, the quantity of fun that you can have in Anthem is just not there. How could you possibly have fun when the game is this thin? When the game is lacking so much content? The detonator system, the gameplay loop, it has potential. We don't see this kind of combination spell, cooldown-based looter-shooter thing. We usually focus more on, the gunplay, the weapons, right? Kind of like other games like The Division, who are coming out very, very soon. Anthem went a different route, a very unique route, one full of promise and potential. But the game is just not fun. Fundamentally to the core, with all of its game systems. Be it the flying is a good thing, of course. General gunplay feels good, but the exercise in playing Anthem is just not there. And I go back to the very start of this video. The live gaming mentality. Anthem was designed to cut corners so that they could build a system of monetization, that they could funnel content through a pipeline for a long time and get people hooked from the very beginning. But in order to do that, you have to start off strong. Just like any game that comes out, there's a certain amount of excitement in the air. It's the infancy stage of the game. You have a chance to capture the hearts of gamers on day one. And if you don't, many of those players will turn away with a cold shoulder and never come back. We have seen this with so many games. The Division 1, Watch Dogs, all the visual downgrades, the content lapses, and games that should have been releasing with more content, games that release incomplete, ask for more money later. We've seen it all by now. The number one important rule for gaming these days is that on day one, you've got to do it right. Anthem did not. That is not even to speak of the various technical issues, the game-breaking PS4 thing that I was talking about earlier, all the loot issues. That's all to the side. The fundamental concept of Anthem, though, wipe all that other stuff to the side, is hollow. And I think it's going to go down as a very lifeless, bland, banal game that had the potential, limitless potential, to be one of the best games of the year. So what really happened to Anthem? Holy shit, I need to go outside and get some sun. It's winter. Greed by EA, thinking they could build something like this as a cash cow product. Panic by EA, seeing where the trends in the industry were going in terms of like how games are designed, and then maybe forcing things on BioWare to restrain them and what they wanted to do with Anthem initially versus what it turned out to be, which is nothing representative of BioWare. 3, not caring about what people think in this industry. This is something that EA has repeatedly done, and they just simply do not listen to gamers and take our feedback of what we actually want. They'd rather focus on what's good on the bottom line. And then number 4, the most important thing is short-sightedness in vision, right? Taking something that you know will work versus taking something that you want to take a chance on. Taking something that could be amazing but maybe require a little bit more work, more risk. That in itself is one of the reasons why Anthem, when you combine that with the other reason I just stated, it's pretty much what happened to Anthem. Just an absolute travesty. Gonna go down as one of the biggest F-ups in gaming. Not just, what's up, Elle? How you doing? She's gonna go take a nap. Not just in 2019, but I think if you go back years and years and years, this is gonna be at the tippity top for a long time. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's what I think happened to Anthem. You guys let me know what you think. Maybe you have a different story. Love to hear it down below in the comments section. Take care, guys. See you in the next video. I've got some stuff planned for The Division, as well as a very late look at Resident Evil 2. So I hope you guys can check it out on the channel in the coming days. Take care, guys. I'm going to go play The Division some more, prep for a review. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye now.